Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay guys, I got a post here from Hedera, which is a real great video here. It's from an interview with Katie Evans, who is the Chief Business Development Officer at Swarm Markets. And there's one of the things that she went through here where she's just talking about obviously the future of Swarm Markets and why they chose Hedera. So that's what I really want to get into here, because I found this really informative in general, but just in regards to why they chose Hedera, just once again, just showing you what these companies really think about Hedera as a network. So I'm going to get straight into the reasons of why they picked Hedera, because I think that's the most important thing, and then we'll talk about, you know, the kind of stuff that they're looking to bring on chain in the future in terms of services and whatnot. So there was two reasons why Katie says they chose to get with Hedera. One, she said Hedera has stood the test of time. So she said, you know, when we've gone through all these, you know, bull markets and bear markets, you know, you kind of get to see what networks have really managed to survive and weather the storm. And I think that's a really great point, because I'll give you a prime example here, and that is Terra Luna, right? At one point, Terra Luna was a thriving network. It was doing absolutely brilliantly, like really well. And then obviously it got to a point where the stablecoin depegged, which then caused a huge collapse within Terra Luna, and the whole network crashed down, right? And so this is where you get to see that on the surface, you might have networks out here that look like they're doing well. But when it comes down to the downturn and, you know, the value's not as high, so they can't pull as much money out of the token and things like that, or there's not as much interest, then what networks are still out here being able to survive that? What networks are still out here being able to continue working and continue developing and trying to still build, you know, use cases and still trying to add adoption in some way and, you know, make partnerships and whatnot? That's a very, very, very good point there, because I've seen it. You know, I've been in this space for a long time now. I've been here for like 6 years. So I've seen over time networks that were once thriving and had potential start to get to a point where they go stale. Or, you know, like a prime example of this is Casper. Casper was a network where, you know, they had a foundation that was building this huge, I believe it was AI, if I remember rightly. It was like an AI use case for the network. And this was going to be their main attraction, right? This huge thing. And what did the foundation do? They decided to change their name and go and work on Hedera, right? Like, and that's really like shows you the whole brutality of this, of survival of the fittest, right? Because I'll be completely honest with you guys, I hold Casper as well as Hedera. So when I saw that, don't get me wrong, I accepted it because that's life. That's how it works. If your network isn't up to par, then they go with the better network. But I was like, I kind of felt for Casper, right? Because I was like, well, damn, I do feel for these guys, because people have invested on this product that they believe was coming to the network that they felt was really, you know, good. And just like that, they've decided to move away. And why is that? Maybe it's because the technology wasn't good enough, you know, maybe there was issues, maybe it wasn't able to stand the bear markets and things like that. And, you know, there was issues with payments and whatnot. You don't know, right? There's huge amount of reasons as to why that could have happened, but it's a very valid point. Like, you've got to know what networks are out here that, you know, no matter rain or shine, they can still keep going. They are still going to be here. And Hedera has worked all the way through bear markets and bull markets. I've seen that. So it's still here, and there's still been adoption, and there's still been use cases being made. There's still been partnerships going on, people being, companies, being added to the Hedera Council. Like, all that has still been happening, whether it's a bull market or a bear market. And that says a lot to Hedera. And that's why I've told you guys, I think Hedera can weather this storm. I do think Hedera can be here for the long haul, because the technology is good. And they have been able to stand the test of the time. And this is what I've said to you guys before. Like, you know, you've got some companies like Google, for example, who have been on the Hedera Council, but they've decided to make their own blockchain, right? Rather than, you know, work with Hedera continuing on. And I think that's fair enough. But what I'm trying to show you guys is this isn't easy. Like, having your own network that's tried and tested, doesn't have any, you know, outages, doesn't have any hacks and stuff like that. You know, a huge community behind it, a lot of liquidity, like all this kind of stuff. It's not stuff that you just make overnight. It takes time. And so this is what I've been saying to you guys. Not all companies are going to do this. They're not going to have it in them to keep going through all of this. They'll just use something that's already tried and tested. And Hedera is one of those networks. And that's clear to see. So I thought that was a really, really good point. The second reason why she said is because Hedera is a network that is based on institutions, but it's got compliance in mind. And that's why it's like institution based, because it's thinking from a compliance perspective. Now, one of the things that I've told you guys many times, one of the huge positives that Hedera has is that it has like KYC compliance built in. That's a huge factor when it comes to enterprises wanting to use this technology, because AML compliance and things like that, it's a huge thing. It's a legal requirement. So when you're looking at institutions who may want to use this types of technology, having that as a native feature is a huge bonus for them, because that is something that they will need to have. It's not a choice. It's a legal requirement. And so when she's saying how Hedera is like compliance first, institution thought based, I completely agree. And at the end of the day, when you're talking about institutions, governments, etc., compliance is a key component, because they're not going to want to have a network that they're utilizing or a product where they don't know who's using it, or it can be used for nefarious reasons, that kind of thing. They're not going to want that. It's just that simple. And that's obvious, right? When you're dealing with like banks and the government and stuff like that, KYC is a standard thing. KYC is know your customer, by the way. So that's just verifying who you are, so they know you are who you say you are, right? So, for example, a terrorist, they're not going to want to be using a network that a terrorist can just access, right? Now, don't get me wrong, when you're using HBAR, Hedera just on the general side, it's a decentralized network, so you don't know. But having these compliance features baked in, when they provide their use cases, they can put that product in, so they have to have the KYC there, so it's enabled. So this is the kind of thing where for a company like Swarm's Markets, they're going to want these types of things because they're dealing with compliant products. Their whole thing is compliance. It's a massive deal. So once again, when you're talking about these types of features, Hedera is there. It has it. It's not something that they've had to do an upgrade for. It's not something that they have to work towards. It's just there. And that's a huge, huge positive for Hedera. So, just overall in terms of why they picked Hedera, again, it just shows you this network has what a lot of institutions will want, and big customers, like this is what they're going to want. Enterprises, companies, they've got the features, they've got the technology, they've got it. They've got all the things that they will want. So this is why I always say, I do think Hedera will be one of the networks that is here long term. And Katie is just reiterating the things that I've said to you in the past. So really reassuring to hear that. Really great to hear that. So just moving on, what they're talking about with Swarm Markets. So they're just talking about the potential now of what they're looking to do. So if you don't know, Swarm Markets is basically RWA tokenization. So they're tokenizing things like traditional finance assets. So if you think about your normal stocks like Apple stock, MicroStrategy stocks, Amazon stocks, whatever, like tokenizing them so they're moving them on chain. As we know, everything is moving on chain, everything of value will be tokenized, right? So you're basically talking about, to an extent, you've been able to like tokenize the whole stock market, that kind of thing. And so you can have all these things available via, DLT technology rather than, just having to go through traditional finance. It's doing that merge, right? This is going to be obviously hugely beneficial. Why? Because it's going to make things way more accessible, way more faster. So in terms of like if you go through traditional finance, it might take you a while to have to do these things. It might be that these things are only running through the normal 9 to 5, Monday to Friday channels. Whereas when you've got it all tokenized, you can do it 24/7 whenever you want, and the money will be available instantly and the fees will be dirt cheap, right? So this is the kind of thing that is bringing to you. Katie did say she believes that RWA is really like the killer use case for crypto technology. I've been saying to you guys for a while now, if you've been watching my HBAR content from very early on, I've been saying look out for tokenization, because I think that's going to be one of the bigger use cases. It's just because tokenizing things, there's so many things that you can tokenize of value. There's so many things, and the benefits to doing tokenization is going to be massive. So tokenization is going to bring a lot of activity on chain, because there is going to be so much things that you can tokenize. So this to me was inevitable. like tokenizing derivatives, tokenizing, traditional finance, tokenizing stocks, tokenizing real estate, tokenizing diamonds, like all sorts of things, right? This was just where it was naturally going to go. And Leemon Baird said it best, everything of value will be tokenized. I completely agree. That's clear to see. And so they're talking about what they're trying to do in that regard. And so they're saying how stablecoins have also been a big thing. Again, I agree. I think that's been the entry point into crypto now. So for the people who are not fully, aware in terms of investing, it's just being able to use crypto to do maybe like cross-border transfers for cheaper. Could be that they want to use a stablecoin to pay their bills, that kind of thing. It's just having that stablecoin reflection of like a US dollar, like a digital dollar, basically. So that's like the entry point and the first way of like bridging traditional finance into the new, Web3 decentralized finance. And so they're talking about how, they could get to a point where you're using your stocks to pay for, a Starbucks coffee. Yeah, absolutely. Now, don't get me wrong, I will say this. Consider the tax implications, because like I'm assuming with that kind of thing, that would actually be classed as a taxable event. If you're using your stock to pay for something, like that would be classed as probably selling the stock to pay for whatever it is that you're paying for. So I definitely think that's something that you will have to consider. But obviously, these are the benefits that are now going to be presented to people. At the end of the day, whether people choose to use it or not, it's an avenue. Some people may choose to use it, some people may not, but the option's there, right? So it's just breaking down barriers, making things more accessible, using new ways that you can start to look at, building a portfolio or lending money and that kind of stuff. It's all new things that are going to be, open to people. I'm all for it, whether people want to use it or not. Like, as I said, there can always be someone who wants to use something. So even if it's, for example, not my type of thing to be utilizing like a stock to pay for something, there could be someone out there who's happy to do it. There could always be someone who thinks, yeah, that to me is great. I'm happy with that. I don't mind paying the tax or whatever. That's fine with me. There's always going to be something out there for someone. So just having this access, this as an opportunity, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. So I'm really glad to see this. I think this is a massive positive. I think swarms are looking like they could have a huge future. And the fact that they've chosen Hedera just shows you, like, this is where it's going. Like, and Hedera has a very good position to be in place to benefit from this long term. So thought I'd share this with you because, once again, you're seeing all this, you're seeing the future unfold, and you're seeing what companies have to say about Hedera. I completely agree. There's not many networks that I think will be here long term in the end compared to how many networks we have and cryptos out now. There's like 20,000 plus. I do think like 95% of those will be gone after regulations long term because they won't survive. But I do think Hedera will be here long term, in my opinion. And this is the kind of reasons why that case is explaining. So thought I'd share this with you. And obviously, if I get any more information like this to share, I'll be sure to keep you guys updated. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.